guys, it's Kylie. I wanted to do this vlog, I guess, as a response to the Turf Wars Part 1 review that I co-wrote with Griffin, Progman X, and the reception of that and, like, every conversation that's been happening around it. And yes, this will have Turf Wars spoilers in it, probably, so please proceed with caution if you haven't read that. I don't want to spoil anything. So, off the bat, I just, really have to open with an apology. I am so sorry for how this piece landed. I'm sorry for everyone that was hurt by what we had written, or angry, or offended, or I'm just, I'm so embarrassed by it. I can see now where everyone's coming from who said that it felt condescending, and I just, I've truthfully been feeling sick about it as soon as one person pointed it out. I'm so sorry. Every single decision we made for how to write that review and how to proceed, it was done with the intention of having the exact opposite outcome, where we were hoping we could validate everyone's experience reading the comics while also explaining our own. And it was just, the way we approached it was so fucking stupid. Now that, looking back on it now, it was so stupid. For one, we're one of the first reviews out. We're the only one in the Tumblr tag. We've been sitting on this content for a really long time. I probably should have mentioned that. Griffin and I, that 10,000 word piece that we've been promising, we finished that over 2 weeks ago. So, we've been with this and thinking about it and overthinking about it for too long, and I think what ended up happening was we just didn't appreciate the dynamics that played into it. We didn't appreciate sort of the power imbalance with, coming at this as two disappointed fans, but then writing from a side. It got away from us. It got away from us. That's the best way I can put it. Simply put, it's not a secret. This is something I've been talking about since the comics were announced 2 years ago. This is something that we both wrote about in that Turf Wars anxiety piece that we did. Our biggest issue is that we don't view the way institutionalized homophobia was introduced and portrayed in this comic as something that can work with the shows, with the setting from the shows. And we have a large number of reasons why we feel this way, and we'll share them, and we don't expect everyone to agree with them. It's just, this is where we're coming from. So what ended up happening is that, to us, reading this, seeing something that we felt was very shoehorned in, it ended up, to us, feeling quite pandering. And, I don't get to tell anyone what is validating at all. We purposely tried to keep saying, here's the positives. We don't get, it's okay if you didn't feel this way. This is our opinion. We kept trying to say this. I understand why that didn't come across, but there is a flip side to that. And the flip side is that you don't get to tell me what feels pandering and what I feel offended by. And for that reason, I think what ended up happening, because we knew that this wasn't how it was going to land for a lot of people. So our thought process was that we can't say something negative unless we really, really keep backing it up with why we felt so dissatisfied. And because we felt that this was such an out-of-place story, we kind of just kept piling on and on and on. And the stupidest part of this is that if we could have just moved on past that point, we like this story. I said this last night because we were, retooling the piece that's going to drop tomorrow and rethinking about it. I was like, Griffin, if we just ignore this aspect, if we just treat the comic as its own thing, we really like this. There's a lot that's really good about it. Korra and Asami, we kind of view it as dropped into this situation, but they were perfect. Like, everything about that. I do stand by some of what I said about Korra's, like, punch first mentality coming back. Like, I do stand by that. But, like, their dynamic, the Korrasami dynamic, that was wonderful. I loved the conversation in the spirit world where Korra was kind of, like, fleshing out her mentality back in book 1. That's a great way to go back and inform canon. That was really a beautiful moment. Like, everything, too, with knowing that this is how, you know, homophobic the world is, that Korra would be like, let's go tell my parents. And Asami would be like, okay, like, I'm sure they're great, but are you sure about this? Like, that was perfect. Oh my god, the tent scene where, you know, Asami says, excuse me, I'm gonna go work on something practical, and Korra's like, oh, you don't think what I do is practical? Like, boom, that is perfect. Like, all of that was perfect. And, like, what ended up happening is that I think we were just so, like, focused on explaining our dissatisfaction with one facet of it that we got completely lost in being able to explain the love that we have for these characters and that's coming from this setting. And it just ended up piling on. And then, like, the rubric we made that was also supposed to actually safeguard against this from happening. We made the rubric in case we didn't feel personally compelled, but, like, it was still fine. Well, that ended up working against us because we ended up just being like, well, no, like, you know, if the setting doesn't work, then this doesn't. And it just snowballed. And we kind of went down this spiral of, like, but no, we can really justify why we didn't feel this way. And oh god, it was just so stupid looking back at even little things. Also, there was, like, total tonal clashes. So, like, the part where we're talking about logic and we're like, why is Reiko doing this? Why are the turf wars happening? Like, that's just us making fun of break politics, the same as normal. The exact same approach I had when I was writing, you know, those definitive rankings of book 2 and book 4 episodes. Like, that's hilarious to it. The poster of Reiko fighting Tyrion, like, that's hilarious. We think it's ridiculously myopic on the part of the president, but it's still, like, that's the kind of stuff that amuses us and we want to talk about it. And then we crafted this, like, immaculate conspiracy theory behind, like, why this is happening with the campaign manager and all this stuff. And we can't wait to write about that kind of thing. I cannot wait to defend Asami for her practicality comment because I know how that's going to be received and I know what the fandom's going to do. So it's just like, God, we're so stupid. We completely forgot about, like, the love that we feel for this, and we completely forgot just to, like, put characters first and foremost in this review. Instead, we were like, our word carries a lot of weight, or, I mean, and not to be hubristic, I do know that, like, there are people that have really read into especially my analyses a lot and really gotten a lot out of it through the years. So I think we were very cognizant, like, oh, there is a power dynamic here. Our word carries a lot of weight, so therefore we must thoroughly defend it. And, like, no, that was such an asinine approach to this. Look at what's going on in the news. Even look at, like, this fucking weekend with Jeremy Jordan and Chris Wood insulting their entire LGBT fan base. Like, no, this comic isn't harmful. Like, we do see some negative implications, and just given the media we've consumed and the way we, like, sort of react to it, we don't love some of the tropes it played into, and I think that's fair. I think it's okay to say that this left us cold, but we know that this thing isn't, like, hurting anyone. We didn't need to be ripping into it as if it's, like, the same, you know, homophobia that we're seeing on Game of Thrones or something, and we didn't mean to either. It just, everything got away from us. Even the Shira Shinobi recap, which was, like, completely to lighten the mood, that ended up sounding just like all this scorn and, like, oh, you guys are so nitpicky. That's just what I like to do. You know, we've been kicking around starting a Legend of Korra rewatch podcast. I would be doing that for every single episode because I think it's really funny to do, even for episodes like Korra Alone, which is the best episode of television I have literally ever watched. So I'm so frustrated with myself for taking this approach. The rubric was the dumbest fucking idea in the world. It made so much sense at the time because we were worried we'd have a different reaction. Everything we did made sense at the time, but I'm just so, embarrassed. I'm just really embarrassed at how it came across. And I think, you know, what I really should have been cognizant of too, and I'm so sorry for this, is as much validation as the comics provide, there's a validation in my own word and in what I write on this stuff. And again, I'm not trying to like, oh, I'm so important. I don't think that's the case. I do happen to know that a lot of people take my analyses and have really responded to them. And I didn't mean to come across as I was being at all, because there's so much that's like really good here and that I can't wait to dig into. And God, it's just, we forgot we liked it. We actually forgot we liked it. And we forgot we liked it because we were just so worried about what the reaction would be to saying that we had issues with certain parts of it, you know? So I don't want there to be any misconceptions about what we're releasing tomorrow. It is an immaculate breakdown, and I say immaculate, maybe neurotic is a better term for it, because that's kind of what we're doing. It's a neurotic breakdown of basically everything we didn't think made sense with the way the homophobia is portrayed. Oh, I also want to say really quickly, we mentioned Eastern versus Western in the review, and like we weren't trying to say there's no Eastern homophobia or anything like that. We were talking like there's a difference in mentalities, particularly from historical aspect, and we have a full section of that that we go through. So I'm really, really sorry. I wasn't trying to like come at a place of like, oh, we white people know all about, you know, how homophobia is in the East. Like, no. That's totally, we needed more context for that. We shouldn't have just like thrown that out there. So that was really irresponsible, and I'm sorry. I don't know how like that slipped through my radar without thinking about it. But yeah, this piece is going to lay our case down for why we don't think this is fitting with the setting. And then like, that's it. If you agree with it, cool. If you don't agree with it, like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about like the ways you do think this works. Let's talk about how you do feel about it. And that's totally fine too. And then we can all move on because we like this. There's a lot here. There's a lot that's really good. I mean, I'm already like, you know, I'm storing up a bunch of things in my like bank for after the digital release so that I can start sharing like, oh wow, look at how Korra and Asami look at each other. Look at Korra checking in to see if Asami's okay on stuff. You know, all that kind of thing. And then, you know, just having a really good time with like break politics like we always do, and Asami defense, which I'm sure will need to happen. Although, girl, what were you doing in that last fight scene? Come on, lady. So yeah, I'm just, this has been a weird few days. No, it's been one day. It's been one day. This has been a weird day, and I feel like I've learned a lot, and I just, you know, I know all about misaligned intent and result, and I just, you know, hindsight's 2020. All I can do is move forward and try to be better. And we do get, like, in the case that we make, we couldn't rewrite the entire 10,000 words. We do get, like, snarky. But it's completely, like, it's with good humor. We're making Seinfeld jokes throughout it. Like, our tone writing it, we're just like, oh my god, and then this doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. It's the same tone we had when we were writing the piece on why the DEO in Supergirl doesn't make any sense. We still absolutely adore these pieces of media, you know, like, talk to me about how much sense Unalaq makes, for instance. Like, so Turf Wars is not this, like, negative comic. It's a net good in the world, you know, like, this is just, we're gonna have different takeaways from it, certainly, and I definitely had a different visceral reaction to it, and, you know, there is still, like, that's still my reaction. That's still my thoughts and feelings about how this landed for me, and I can't really change that, but I don't think I need to over-explain and hammer on it to the point where everyone else is like, well, I guess I'm just some asshole for liking it. Like, no, god, no, that's not at all what I was trying to do. So that's it. Like, I'm so sorry, and I hope this is understandable where I'm coming from, and I hope we can all just kind of like move forward and go back to loving Korra Asami together, because I do. And I really, really, really can't wait till the digital release is out and we can just talk about like all the ridiculous stuff openly. And all the like fun stuff too. Asami dramatic Sato like falling over in Korra's arms after she was totally fine the panel before. Fucking love it. So that's all. Thank you for listening, everyone. And yeah. I'm sure I'll do one of these again soon.